Everyone watching this has had this happen to them. Being on your phone or a handheld and you get that dreaded low battery warning. Or your device dies right in the middle of the toughest battle or intense scene. Even worse than that is when you're out and about with your devices and you pull out your retro handheld to get some gaming done while you wait for your missus to go clothes shopping, only to realize you forgot to charge it the night before. Luckily though, there is a brilliant invention that can help rid us of this problem. Portable batteries, or power banks if that's what you want to call them. Back in the day, you would carry a couple extra AA batteries in your backpack or in the car, just in case your Game Boy ran out of juice. Nowadays, we have massive battery banks that fill that void. So today I'm going to be unboxing this bad boy right here, the Iniu Cougar P64. This guy here has a massive 25,000 milliamp hour battery and is capable of a whopping 145 watts of combined power up, meaning that it can charge your LIX at its full fast charge speed and your phone at the same time. Before we get into getting this thing out of the box and doing some testing though, I do want to mention that it and a pair of 240 watt capable USB-C cables was provided to me by Iniu themselves. But in saying that, no money's changed hands and all opinions are my own. Alright, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's actually have a look at this thing. So we've got the front of the box here, nothing too hectic. We've got the branding Iniu, as well as a picture of the power bank right on front, as well as telling us that it is the P64-E1. Turning it around to the back, there's nothing too interesting here besides this nice, very obvious peel to unbox. So let's get rid of that. Oh. And have a look at this thing, hey? Immediately pulling this out of the box, we've got this nice little it's not really neoprene, this mesh travel bag, I suspect, for it. Has some nice branding there again. We have the power bank itself in this plastic wrap. And here we go, our first look at this thing. It is very sleek looking if you ask me. It is a little bit fingerprinty. My apologies, it is quite warm where I am at the moment. But it feels pretty solid and actually surprisingly not as big as I thought it would be. I have another 20,000 milliamp hour Signet power bank that I used to use. But this thing is significantly smaller. But let's set that aside for the time being and keep looking at what's inside the box here. And then inside here we have a little bit USB-C to C cable that comes with it, which is nice. We'll set that aside and unwrap that in a second. As well as the user manual and some documentation and a cool little business card. But other than that, inside the box, you can pretty much pull it apart and there is nothing else in here. Now that we have this bad boy out of the box, I'll take this time to have a quick look around this unit and go over some of the important specs of this battery bank. First and foremost, this is a 25,000 milliamp hour battery or a 92.5 watt hour equivalent. But that's just numbers. So what does that mean in practice? In my hands here, I have the ROG LIX, which internally, this thing has an 80 watt hour battery. So that means this power bank here holds just over one full charge of the LIX here. So this thing here can charge the ROG LIX from 0 to full one time over, or essentially doubling the battery life that this thing has. Or if you have the Retroid Pocket 5 like I do here, this thing has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. So if you do some quick maths there, this is 25,000. You should be able to charge this guy about 5 times over, which is pretty impressive if you ask me. According to Iniu's marketing as well, this thing can also charge your Steam Deck 1.6 times, your iPad Pro 1.5 times, and or if you have the Samsung S23, it can do up to 3.8 charges of that. Then not only that, but this thing here is capable of 140 watts total power output. But again, what does that mean? The ROG Ally can accept up to 100 watts in fast charge. The RP5 can go up to about 35, I think, if you go by their fast charger available on Retroid's website. Then with those numbers, we can assume that this power bank here is capable of charging both of these devices from 0 to full in one charge, while also utilizing fast charge. And if you're not too worried about fast charge, you can charge up to 3 devices all with this one unit. Now that all probably sounds a bit complicated, so I have on screen an infographic that comes from Iniu directly that shows the power output configurations that are possible. But don't worry, I'll be doing some testing of this stuff very shortly. Moving on, having a look at the top of this power bank. Quickly, you can see that there's 3 ports here. Two of which are USB-C and a solo USB-A, as well as some text here outlining what each of these is capable of outputting. Then on the other side, the only other physical thing that we can point out here is that there is a nice clicky power button. And then finally, we can have a look at the front of the device, which you probably already noticed was the LCD screen. So while nothing is plugged in here, you can see that it shows us the battery as a percentage left, but the real magic here happens once you plug in a device. Now that I've gotten the RP5 plugged in, we can have a look at the information that is being displayed here. Going from left to right, in white here you can see it shows us the wattage output that it is currently doing. So this is going to fluctuate a little bit as they both kind of talk to each other and decide what the device wants to accept. Directly above that there, you can see it says C2. That just denotes which of the ports the power is going out of. So we can have a quick look here at the top of the device. Kind of hard to see there while everything is plugged in, but this is the C2 port, which is the 45 watt, and it shows us that 20.7 watts is going out at the moment, but like I said, that'll fluctuate. Then in the middle again, we have the charge capacity left over as a percentage. And then on the right here, we have the charge remaining, but this time it shows us the charge remaining as hours. So it can charge the RP5 at this wattage for 5 hours. Now that we've gone over some of the quick specs, now's probably a good time as well to mention that now that we've gone over some of the specs, this is probably also a good time to mention that Iniu also provides a 3-year warranty when you purchase one of their devices. Moving on from that, let's get on to some tests. So far, when I unboxed the power bank, it was at 62% charge. So I quickly went and charged it in the living room with my 65 watt charger that came with the LIX to boost it up to a full charge, and did some quick testing with my iPhone to see how much juice I could get in my phone in 30 minutes. Which we will get into shortly. But first, while we have this power bank out on the desk, I want to see what this thing is capable of. So I'm going to give it the absolute worst case scenario if all my gaming devices were dead and I wanted them all charged at the same time. Is this power bank capable of that? And we can talk about some of the findings as we go. So first off, let's tackle this big boy, the ROG LIX. So I'm going to grab one of these fancy USB-C cables that Iniu themselves were also kind enough to provide for me for this testing. So let's start this off by plugging this into the 140 watt port and then plugging this into the ROG LIX. So you can see there, power delivery is on. It is now accepting 96-ish watts. It'll be able to do this for the next hour. Now the ROG wasn't fully discharged. It is currently at 73%, so we can kind of assume there that it's not going to accept the full 100 watts purely because we're close to the 80 charging limit that I do have set for the ROG. Next up, we'll take the second of this USB-C cables that was included in that pack, plug this into the 45 watt port. These also have this nice feature there where you can tell when power is being accepted because of this green light. So we'll grab the Retroid Pocket 5, plug that boy in, and there you go. You can see that's charging now, and it is currently at, or if we can get it to focus, 16%. And we can have a look at what's happening here on the front of the power bank too. So now this is going to take a while to even itself out. Currently at about 400 watts. And we can see here it's showing us the combined wattage output because it's showing the C1 and the C2 port on the front of the power bank. And then finally, we're going to plug in my trusty TrimUI brick. Since this handheld is one of the few Linux-based ones that can accept a higher charging wattage, I think they advertise it's 5 watt at 2 amps, and it is most likely to actually work and not have the battery blow up. So let's plug this guy in now with the USB-A port. Now that he's plugged in, there you go, that is charging. The Retroid is now at 18% and still charging, at 75% and still charging. Now, after letting it sit here for a bit, we can see we're kind of hovering at about that 110 to about 115 watts coming out. Now, we're not hitting that top 145 watts. I'm not sure why that's not happening, but you got to remember that all 3 of these devices here have all 4 of these devices here have battery protection stuff in place. So to stop them all from overheating, it's not actually going to accept the full 3500 and whatever wattage each device is advertised of doing, not 100% of the time. So this is all pretty normal. It's nothing to worry about, in my opinion. Now, another thing I did want to test while I do have this thing out on the bench here is charging your other retro handhelds. So this here, I've got the Anbernic RG35XX Plus. I'm pretty sure this is the model. Now, Anbernic themselves and many people in the community will recommend that you do not charge these things with anything other than a 5-volt 1 amp wall charger and a USB-A to C cable, purely because these things don't have battery protection in place that is as good as other devices like the Android or the Windows-based stuff like the ROG. But you can see here, it is technically accepting power, and it is charging, though it is capable of it. I would not recommend it purely with these devices just because these things made in China aren't always the safest things with these batteries, and there have been reports of these batteries pillowing up and causing issues that way. In fact, with these ones, I wouldn't even really recommend charging them overnight. I would charge them purely when you're awake and whenever they're close enough in proximity to you so that if something does go wrong with them, you can be quick enough to sort it out before you cause a massive fire. This is kind of impressive if you ask me. One of the worst case scenarios for this power bank, and it seems to be handling it like an absolute champ. But now that we've seen what it's capable of, let's go talk some quick numbers. I purposely let some of these devices get to 0% so we can track how much charge we would get in 30 minutes, which might seem arbitrary, but is realistically a real world test. Let's say you're out and about and one of your devices die, but you have your power bank in your backpack, so you quickly plug it in for 30 minutes while you walk around to get some quick juice back into it. So firstly, I've got my iPhone 16 Pro, which I'm currently using to shoot this video. The power bank was able to get my phone from completely flat to 55% in those 30 minutes. Next, impressively, it managed to get my Retroid Pocket 5 here from 0% to all the way up to 70 in those 30 minutes, which I thought was quite impressive. And finally, I had to test it with my ROG Ally X, which has the largest battery and is by far the most powerful device and the one that accepts the highest charging wattage. This little guy right here managed to get it from 0% to 47% in those 30 minutes, which that's some pretty quick juice if you ask me. Now, the Cougar P64 here is one of Iniu's more premium products at 150 Australian dollars on the Australian Amazon or 90 USD on the US Amazon through the link down below, which is surprisingly more affordable than competing companies' $200 25,000 milliamp hour battery bank that doesn't support 140 watts out, nor all the bells and whistles or the display that the Cougar P64 allows. For me, this will be the perfect companion for my portable devices. Though the power bank itself isn't exactly compact, I think I'm definitely going to need to sit down and make some space for it in my backpack, just so I can make sure I have this little beast with me. The ability to charge up to 3 devices at once and support fast charge on each of those devices was more than enough to convince me. Though I wasn't able to get each device to reach the full output power, I don't think that's the fault of the power bank, but more so a problem of having multiple different devices, all that have different levels of battery protection. And truth be told, I still think the numbers we were able to achieve were still quite impressive. I am someone that often forgets to charge my phone or my handhelds, so having something like this with me should solve the headache of low battery or dead phones when I'm out traveling around town or while I'm at work. That, along with the 3-year warranty that comes with Iniu products, gives me the confidence needed to trust my devices to this power bank, and my sanity knowing that if I do forget to charge my phone overnight, then I have a quick solution within arm's reach. All in all, through my testing, I think if you're in the market for a battery bank for your handhelds or a companion for your Ally X to double your battery life and space isn't an issue, you wouldn't go wrong having the P64 by your side. Though if size is an issue for you, they do have a very compact power bank with the same capacity and 100 watts of output that I haven't been able to get my hands on yet, but for $100 Australian is surely another solid option. With all that being said, I want to thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video if you liked it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and you want to see more reviews and other interesting content from me. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you all on the next one.